Let's take a look at some Power Claw pendants, Melter Bomb keychains, and real life purity seals with a range review of some rather interesting Warhammer 40k merch. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're doing something a bit different and taking a look over a whole bunch of Warhammer 40k curios, all made from an officially licensed company called Starforged. These guys got in touch with me to ask whether I'd be willing to do a sponsored video to talk through their range on the channel. Sponsorships aren't really something that I do very much at all, but I felt like these could be interesting enough to enough people on the channel just for some really quite cool and interesting little curios to take a look at. And they also were generous enough to send me a few samples of their things as well, just so I could get a little bit more of a feel for them in person. Starforged appears to be a Warhammer 40k licensed merch company, and kind of doing something that Games Workshop doesn't really do all that much, making non-miniature related luxury little accessories and products and things that you might want for your favourite chapter or race that you play in Warhammer 40k. Looking at the range, I do think it could make some genuinely good gifts for Warhammer collectors, or if you just wanted to have something like a keychain, ring or pendant or something of your own faction. It does seem kind of fun to have Warhammer 40k things made manifest like this. Perhaps a few of the things that caught my eye the most were a fun little Melter Bomb keyring, a Power Claw pendant, some classic retro banners and things that they've made fridge magnets out of, and some fairly cool looking purity seals. It is kind of surreal to see Warhammer 40k made into actual genuine jewellery as well. Things like this Black Templar ring here. Let's jump into it though and take a look at what they've got and how much it'd cost. If you want to check them out for yourself, the link's down in the video description. It does look like they're shipped worldwide. Jumping into it though, let's take a look through their range. I did quite like these keychains to be honest. A whole bunch of nice simple Warhammer 40k weapons, perhaps one of the most exciting bits that the models have. I think perhaps my favourite out of these were the las gun, the chain axe, and maybe the Space Marine bolter. Kind of cool to have those on your keyring. Looks like they've got an orc chopper as well. For a few more, they've also got some different renditions of the Black Templar Emperor's Champion Black Sword. They come in a few different colours it would seem, though are a little bit more expensive, and a couple of slightly less expensive ones in a Space Marine Storm Shield and a Melter Bomb. The Melter Bomb is kind of small I guess, but I think it's perhaps one of the cooler ones. They're a bit cheaper at $11.50. They've got a whole bunch of chapter banner magnets. These ones are basically going for retro style Space Marine banners. I'm not sure if these are actually previous designs that they actually used to have or whether they're just done in a retro style. Things that really make me think of banners that you might see on Warhammer miniatures back from the early 2000s or something. They've got ones for most of the main chapters, a Grey Knight one, Black Templars, Ultramarines, Imperial Fists, Salamanders and Dark Angels, and it also looks like there's the Blood Ravens sneaking in there alongside the other major chapters. They're $20 or $110 for the full set of 12 of them. Not sure I'd be too tempted by a set of 12 for that, but maybe an individual one could be a bit of a luxury if you got someone who's absolutely dedicated to that chapter. Perhaps one of the most surprising things that they had on offer is a whole bunch of Warhammer 40k rings and jewellery. I did mention the Black Templar one as perhaps a pretty cool one with their little insignia on earlier. This one's made of actual silver, so it's priced accordingly, over $100. Looks like they can size them anywhere between 18 and 22mm, depending on the size of your fingers. And for the rings, it looks like they've gone to the next level on a fair few of them. The Black Templar one has a whole load of Templar vows inscribed within the inside of it. Obviously not going to be on show, but I must admit that does feel like a very cool touch. You can be vowing to abhor and destroy the witch wherever you go with that, I suppose. I'm not going to go through the entire list of them, but there are really quite a lot of interesting other ones for different factions. I really quite like the Imperial Guard one. The front of it maybe being a little bit more of a generic wing skull, but I really quite like that the back of it's kind of stylized like Astra Militarum tank tracks. And again, the inside has a bit of an inlay. It says Cadia on there, which is kind of fun. Cadia stands in our hearts, I suppose. There's a slightly more simpler one for the Imperial Aquila, and there's a Grey Knight Knights of Titan one as well. Next up, they've got a whole bunch of purity seals. These are perhaps aimed to be a bit more life-size and can be worn as pin badges. I guess that's one way to lock in some purity before an event or tournament, I guess. Again, they've got perhaps a surprising amount of designs of these, one for the vast majority of the major chapters, plus the Mechanicum, Sororitas and Imperial Guard as well. They all have their own different text inlays as well. For example, a Space Wolf one has some nice runes on it. And they all seem to have their own chapter's battle cry at the bottom as well. The Raven Guard's Victorus Ode Mortis, or the Space Wolves for Ross for the Allfather. They also have a whole bunch of chapter and faction specific pin badges as well. These ones seem to vary quite a bit in terms of price and complexity of the design. The Admech one's got a rather snazzy seal of the Omnissiah one, though it does cost a fair bit more. I think out of these ones are probably just like these slightly understated ones that are the logo of the faction that you might be playing. I guess the Genestealer Cult one's one way of recognising other folks as servants of the Four-Armed Emperor. I thought the Captain Badrock's head one was kind of funny as well. They've also got a whole bunch of glyph ones from the orcs if you want death skulls or bad moons or something. They're maybe a little bit more simplistic and just square plated ones. And a fair few smaller coloured ones for the chapters as well, including an Inquisition one too. They have some slightly bigger metal badges, maybe kind of similar to what they're doing with the Purity Seals there. They're quite a lot larger, and they've got one for the Indomitus Crusade and the Adeptus Custodes as well. Those ones look like they go for just shy of $30. Then they've got a whole bunch of pendants too. Then going for Warhammer 40K in jewellery form once more. I've got a bunch of alloy steel ones. I think my favourite out of these ones is probably the Ghazghkull Thraka Power Claw. There's some slightly smaller ones for an Icon of Chaos plus a Sister of Battle one. I can't help but wonder what the reaction would be of your significant other if you bought one of those for them. He also has some higher end necklaces as well, where they're going for a bit more of a jewellery type market again, same as the rings. These ones are apparently made of silver. A few different designs on these ones. They've got a Gladius supposedly for Rabute Gilliman. Feel like that one's maybe a little bit more generic perhaps. But they have some for the Chaos Gods as well, an Angron themed one with a Rune of Khorne, and a nice Sorceress Eye of Tzeentch one. Then getting into more exotic things, they've also got some keycaps on offer here. 3 different materials for a nice Primaris helmet type overlay one, and a bronze ultramarine one. They've got a wax stamp kit just in case you want to emboss some things with some Imperial designs. This one's called the Seal of the Imperial Regent. Looks like you've got a little bust that looks like Rabute Gilliman, and then enough wax to stamp some designs with his likeness, it would seem, or give them a nice Ultramarines logo. I do find it pretty hilarious that something like that exists. Not sure too many people would have practical use for it. It is pretty funny though. Along with the slightly more out there things, they've also got an umbrella of the Omnissiah for the Adeptus Mechanicus. The actual umbrella looks kind of normal by the Mechanicus logo, which probably wouldn't stand out too much in public, but the handle is definitely pleasingly machine god, with a nice skull inlaid with a whole bunch of sinister technology. Again, I do find it pretty hilarious that you can have a servitor inside your umbrella if you really want to. Otherwise, they've got a whole bunch of t-shirts, one here with an Adeptus Astartes coming through a door. A couple of fun ones that I quite liked, with basically a Warhammer miniature sprue laid out on a white background t-shirt, an Imperial Guard Cadia Stands one. There's one for Cypher the Fallen Angel, one for the 4 Gods of Chaos, a Blood Angels one, a Necron chess piece one, that one looks kind of fun I think, and one for the Ultramarines and Imperium as well. Overall, I feel like it's quite a fun little Warhammer 40k range. Kind of cool that this sort of thing exists out there. Obviously none of these super necessary purchases or anything like that, but I feel like a fair few of these could be pretty interesting to people who get very dedicated into their chosen faction. And it is kind of cool that someone's giving a go at making a whole bunch of Warhammer things into a lot more luxury merch type products, as that's not really something that Games Workshop tend to do themselves all that much. Anything that they come out with tends to be a little bit peripheral and maybe not super high quality. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments below. Which of these do you find the most fun? And of course I'll leave a link to their website in the video description. I'll certainly be back with more regularly scheduled Warhammer 40k Tactics content within the next 12 hours or so feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics or check back later. I'll hope to see you guys in the next one. And of course a big thank you to Starforged for sponsoring the video, and also making some fun Warhammer 40k things to talk about. In any case, an absolutely massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.